sure that many people will be requesting this recording. Let me go straight to our session today, and our session this evening is the power of stories. Why is stories a very, very important aspect of building our business? For a number of reasons. The most effective way to teach is to tell stories. One, because when you tell a story, your hearers put themselves in the story itself. Number two, a story captures the imagination of whoever is hearing the story. And number three, there are lessons hidden in the story. So one of the ways to get prospects or to inspire people to join the business is to tell stories. You will realize that if when you go to any presentation, either one-on-one or you go for a big meeting, all the speakers always share their stories of how they came to join the business. And that is what really sells the presentation. There's a saying we have, facts tell and stories sell. And the reason why stories tell is because hearers find themselves emotionally connected to the stories that are being told. So, what are the elements of a good story? What part of the story actually captures the imagination of your hearers? First, stories of profound change. That simply means that the story you are saying causes change that people actually can relate to. The second part of a good story is the person who is saying the story is normal like you and I. He is not somebody extraordinary. He doesn't come from another planet. Somebody who is just a normal citizen of the country, but has been changed by that what Neolife has done. So there are 4 parts of telling your story that you need to think about. Step number 1, what was life before you joined Neolife, either health-wise or money-wise or career-wise? You will always hear people who are telling stories about Neolife. They tell you how their life was before they joined the business. Number 2, how they encountered Neolife. What are the things they did? How did they meet their sponsor to join the business? Number 3 is what benefits have they experienced since they joined the business, either health-wise or financial-wise, or a completely change in lifestyle of what they've experienced in the business. And then the last part of telling a story is how does the future look like? These are the 4 parts of telling your story that if you master and you begin to tell people your stories about how the business is done or what the business has done for you, you will have a very high rate of sponsoring people into the business. Another aspect of a good story is that you need to be emotionally engaged with the audience. Why? How do you get emotionally engaged? One is to tell aspects of the story that either there was a challenge which is overcome, or something exciting has happened, or something that was never expected happened. The other one is a sense of integrity. The person who is speaking has to tell a story which is true and accurate. Why is that important? Because you don't need to change the story from one day to another. The way you deliver the story might be different, but the essence of the story remains the same. And then you need to have eye contact. Why is eye contact important? Because you need to connect with the people. When you look at somebody in the eye, you connect with the person you're speaking to. If you're speaking to a large group, it's a different approach. You don't train your eye on one person. You keep moving your eye to different people in the audience. The other thing is use appropriate body language. Why is that important? Only 8% of the message we send is actually the content of the story. The rest is body language, your enthusiasm, the tone of your voice, the strength of your voice, the pitch, the tone, everything that you say is mirrored, not in what you say, but how you say it. And then the struggle to reach a certain level. If you really listen to some of the stories of very successful people in our business, they will all tell you that they've gone through very many challenges to reach the level they have reached. So this, you need to think about these aspects of telling your story. The four elements are: number one, how you came to join what life was like before you joined the business. The second part, how you encountered new life. The third part, what benefits have you experienced, either product wise or the income that you've generated, or how the business has changed your life. And the fourth part is, how does the future look like? Those are the essence of a powerful story. Just to give you an example, Betty and I started the business almost 29 years ago. And the reason we started was very simple. Money, money, money. That was really the reason for starting the business. I was working for a consulting company in engineering. And I remember our first check that I received as a salary, 33% of my income went to tax. So the first month I went to Betty and said, we left Kenya, and because of tax, it looks like we are earning the same amount of money we are earning in Kenya than here. We have to do something to change our lives. So as a dutiful son, I registered to do a postgraduate course in Johannesburg. So I would work until 4 o'clock, drive to Johannesburg, attend some postgraduate courses, and then come back at 9 o'clock in the evening. Because I believe that the more education I had, the more successful I was going to be. But when I finished my postgraduate course and I presented my certificate to my employer, there was not a single cent of increase in my salary. And that really frustrated me, because I had spent an extra equivalent of $4,000 to do a postgraduate course, and there was no return on that investment. That was very poor investment. So we started looking for other things to do. I remember Betty sent her CV to all the English-speaking schools in Pretoria because she's a trained science teacher. But she didn't get a job. I remember a statement she made that I've looked for a job long enough, let the job come and find me at home. And 2 weeks after she made that statement, our sponsor, or the lady who sponsored in the business, called Betty and said, Betty, I know you have a sick child, but there's a business you can start and do from home. But she said, I don't know how to do a business. I said, no, just come for the meeting. So Betty went for the meeting. I stayed at home to look after our boys. When she came back, she explained that, look, I don't know how the business works, but I think it is something we can do. Being mathematically minded, I want to know the numbers. So I said, okay, how much money do you need to start? She said 425 Rand. At that time, we didn't have money. So the next day, I think it took us 2 days to decide. The next day, I wrote a check. I called my bank manager and said, look, I've written a check. I want to start a business. Please honor that check. The bank manager almost fainted. There was quite the silence on the other side. I said, look, it's only 425 Rand. Then he told me, what kind of business is that? That's how we got started. So if you're a guest and you're attending this meeting and you don't have money, join the club. We started with no money. So the 425 Rand is what we invested. When they brought our kit, they explained how the business worked. They showed us some products. And then I sat down and being fascinated by numbers, I said, if Betty and I recruit 3 people this month, the next month, everybody in our team recruited 3. If we keep on doing that, after 12 months, I calculated the figure was 16.1 million people. I thought I'd made a mistake. I took my calculator, removed the cells, checked that the connections were okay. I repeated the calculation to 16.1 million. I told Betty, even if 1% of what they told us is true, it is worth attempting. That is how we got started in the business. Our first check was an exciting $3. I took that check, framed it, and put it on the wall to show where we started. And we worked very hard the first 3 years. I would wake up Betty in the middle of the night and tell her, look, I've remembered so and so. We started talking to people. After 7 months of very hard work, I equaled my salary. That's when I decided this was going to be my career. So Betty and I worked very hard. We've had fantastic success, not only income-wise, but health-wise. Our second born has got sickle cell, and because of the products, he managed to go through to school, finish college, and now he's working with Absa Bank. So even if the money wasn't good, at least from the health side, New Life has given really fantastic. But the one story I'd like to leave you that I found very, very exciting for us is in the year 2000, New Life was having the convention in the Palace of the Lost City. It's a fantastic hotel, which is about 160 kilometers from Pretoria. So Betty and I qualified to be paid for by the company, but we paid for our 4 boys to go and spend 3 nights at the Palace of the Lost City. It was a fantastic experience. We drove from here. When you go to Sun City, when you go to the gate, we were told, sir, please leave your car. We'll park it for you. So we left the car. They went to park the car. They took our luggage, brought it to the reception. We checked in. They gave us some plastic cards. We used to open the door. So when we went to our room, we slide the plastic, and the green button comes on, and the door opens. When the door opened, the TV came on and said, welcome the OLOO family. Our second born, Felix, who is ill, says, Mommy, this is life. Such experiences you cannot buy with money. Those are some of the things that really have happened to us in the business. The future looks very bright for us because of what has happened to us and the stories that we keep hearing from one person to another of what New Life has done in their life. This is what keeps us going in the business. Rekindle your dreams again because they're going to become true. Go back, dust the dreams that you've written down that maybe you have forgotten, put them on the wall, put them on the fridge, put them on the dressing mirror, so that you can look at your dreams to keep you going, to keep you building the business. And to finish up, I'd like to share with you some of the people skills that I think are very important if you're going to build our business. The first one is, when you meet people, begin with praise and honest appreciation. That when we see wrong things, our immediate response is to criticize or say things or want to correct. But I would say that if you really want to have good relationship with people, the first thing you need to do is to have praise and honest appreciation. And this is important, especially for our business, is this, because when people are new, they're going to make mistakes. You are also going to make mistakes. When you keep pointing out people's mistakes without appreciating what they do, you will alienate a lot of people from yourself. And that is what really holds your growth of the business. So the first thing is begin with the praise and honest appreciation. Identify positive aspects of people and be very specific. Don't tell somebody, oh, you look very nice. No. If you look at, for example, somebody is wearing a beautiful pair of shoes. They say, so-and-so, your pair of shoes really look lovely and they match your dress. Or if somebody is wearing a suit, I really like your suit. You have a very high taste of dress. That is very important because the average person does not hear anything good in their lives. So be the cheerer when you meet people the first time. The second thing is cause people's mistake indirectly. Why is this important? Because most people make mistakes. And when they make a mistake and you go directly to correct the error, you will find resistance. I was watch sometimes when I pass through places and I see people. They've written at the back of the window of their car, please wash me. So the person may have not washed their car for a long time, but when they see such a sign on their window, they know what they need to do. So cause people's mistakes indirectly. Or if somebody has made a mistake, you ask them, is there anything we can do to help you grow to the next level? I was reading a story this afternoon when I was preparing for this session. This is an engineer, He was building a company, and he was very particular about writing reports. And he prepared a book that when he's unsure of a meaning of a word, he would go and check in a book. So he's written down so many words whose pronunciation he was not very sure, or the spelling. So he didn't want to correct his secretary, who was making 3 or 4 mistakes in every page. So she thought about it. The next day she called her to the office and said, when I started writing reports, I used to make so many mistakes. So what I did, I took a dictionary and put it on my desk. And when I didn't know the spelling of a word, I'd go to my dictionary, check the spelling, and check the meaning of that word, and I write it down in a notebook. So I have a notebook with lots of words whose pronunciation and spelling I did not know, and it's really helped me. Maybe it can help you too. And then he stood up and went. The next report he received from his secretary, he found that there were no spelling mistakes. That is what aspect number 3 talks about. Talk about your own mistakes before you point out people's mistakes. Why is that the case? Because if the person sees that you also make mistakes, their chances of changing their own mistakes or correcting the mistakes is higher. But if you constantly point out people's mistakes and they never hear you talking about your own mistakes, you're just creating resistance and enemies in whatever organization you are. So I would encourage you, if you want to correct people's mistakes, point out your own mistake first before you correct others. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank all of you very much for spending this evening with Betty and myself. I hope some of the information we've shared with you are going to help you grow your business to the next level. Good night and God bless.